I want to invite the next speaker, Dr. Hassan Ashar Nasir. Uh, so it is my pleasure to introduce him. He is an old colleague and one of our very own. Started out at the center from the very beginnings, even before it was officially a center. He is the co-founder and head of energy systems at Zip Technologies. Is it Zip or ZYP? Zip Technologies. Dr. Hassan Nasir is eager to drive innovation in the automobile sector and has picked an indigenous route with a proven track record as the former data science lead at Retailo Technologies and an assistant professor at NUST. He blends academic rigor with industry expertise. So he's no longer associated with NUST but runs his startup full time. He holds a PhD from the University of Melbourne, along with a master's from LUMS and a bachelor's from NUST. Dr. Hassan is dedicated to pushing the boundaries of technology while inspiring the next generation of leaders.
Talk into the depths of the engineering that we did in the last year and a half. We're going to talk more about the products that we've built and the impact that we are trying to create with it, right? Some of it is centric around how we can reduce the carbon footprint, but also we're not trying to create any hidden elephants, inshallah, hopefully. Let's see, like, it gets concluded to a good cause towards that. Right, so it's indigenous route to electric mobility in Pakistan. This is what we have. This is the journey that we have taken, and it actually was kind of a dream of 4 people, but I'm unable to. Yeah, there you go. So these are the 4 co-founders of the company. I'm on the rightmost side over here. Like to flash the names of all the other 3 co-founders who are actually, putting a lot of hard work into this. So we have Hassan Iqbal Khan on the left, and then Imran Afzal, who is the head of automotive. Hassan Iqbal Khan is the CEO, looking after software and all the merger of the different technology that we are developing. Imran Afzal is looking at the design of the automotives. He's the head of automotive. Like Choktai is basically the head of product, and myself, head of energy systems. Right. So, well, this goes beyond saying that, obviously, our cities are becoming more and more air polluted. And if you look at the air quality index, like a cricket match, India and Pakistan is trying to be at the top in terms of having the most polluted cities. And we've been seeing these things in the news. The Lahore has become one of the most polluted city in the world. That's like shocking. Like, maybe back 15, 20 years, it wasn't like that. It has gotten really moved towards the worst. So this is what we sat down and looked at, that, this is becoming really bad, and where we can put some hard work and change this. This is what we thought, right? And we started looking at basically who are the contributors of this air pollution in the city, or in the country, or on a large scale in the world as well. In Pakistan, transport sector is causing like more than 43% of the air pollution, right? So apart from industrial and other kind of commercial sectors, that's huge. And if you really dig down deeper, you figure out that basically the 2-wheelers and the 3-wheelers are actually the major contributors in the transport cost, because they're not following any standards in their carbon emission as well. And there's lots of them. All right. I have not a direct number. I was asking around and figured out 80% of basically the transport sector is actually with the 2-wheelers and the 3-wheelers in the urban areas. Right. So that's huge. And if you look at the numbers over there, like, we are reaching 27 million plus 2-wheelers, which is great for a country in Pakistan, because a lot of you can say a portion of the community in Pakistan, they have to move from one place to another. These are cheaper conveyance, and we have to kind of have the availability of them. Every year we are selling more and more 2-wheelers, so 1.5 million plus being added every year. And if they are substandard in terms of the cost for air pollution in the city, then we are just kind of making it more and more bad. Right. So we thought, okay, well, let's look at the e-mobility, and we start from two-wheelers, and then we'll see like from where we go with that. If you really look into the problem of like providing a product which is like a electric vehicle, for example, to the city or to the country, you really want to see what are the barriers of adoption. Right? I mean, the whole world is moving towards it, but Pakistan is a different track. We are definitely far behind. This graph over here shows that 30% of the um, total shares in a year around the globe are becoming EVs. India is reaching 5%, and Pakistan hasn't reached 1% over there. There's got to be some barriers there. So we've listed like 4 or 5 barriers. This is how we started off, and we thought, okay, we'll build a model that's gonna definitely answer these barriers. We'll see from where we go with that. Okay, so the barriers of adoption, if you are gonna go for two-wheelers, definitely high upfront costs, and the second point is quite related to that, because if you want to beat, for example, a two-wheeler, which is internal combustion engine bike or whatever, the price comparison is not direct. I mean, there's a difference, because if you want a longer life of vehicle, you're going to have a good quality battery in it, and that's going to increase the cost of the whole overall vehicle. And because of that, not many people are willing to buy these products. I mean, really, if you look at from the very general perspective, EV's introduction into the country is really from the very top hierarchy in the sector, in our social structure, where you are introducing vehicles which are more than 10 million or 20 million PKR per unit. So the thing is that we figured out, okay, this cost barrier is definitely we have to tackle. We cannot use low quality batteries because they're just useless. And we've seen these things. Most of the products that have come out in the market, they were not very well, they did not settle really well over the years because they were just not having long lives. Long charging times is a disturbance for electrical vehicle. Everyone knows about that. And then there is insufficient range because of that, if you associate it with the charging times. And obviously there is no public charging infrastructure at all. So we thought that, okay, well, let's look at what we can introduce that can answer all of these barriers at the same time. So what we have done is we have built indigenously a motorcycle without a battery on the left bottom corner that I'm saying. This is how I'm going to explain the model in a very simple manner. We're going to introduce motorcycles without a battery so that the price is down, right? First take off. And we're going to provide you a monthly energy subscription, all right? Where you can swap a discharged battery with the charged one out of those kiosks, which will be at different places in the city. This is our model. And if you really look at it, I mean, the battery problem is not a problem for a buyer at all, right? You don't need to worry about replacing it down 4 or 5 years. You don't need to worry about the quality of the battery because that's just not a user's thing anymore. You are buying a motorcycle without a battery with the promise that your electric refueling can happen in a minute anywhere in the city. And you have the availability of these charging stations across the city. All right. So range question goes out of this discussion as well, because wherever you go, you should be able to spot these kiosks around the city and you can swap a battery there and keep moving. Right. So yeah, this is how we thought that we're going to build it. We started off December 2022. Thankfully, we have the product line ready. We have our ecosystem ready. I'm going to show you some of the trials as well that we are conducting. But first off, I'm going to show you a small demo of our products and also how the electric refueling actually happens. This is one of the videos that was built for some other purpose, but I just thought that, okay, let's flash it here as well. Right, so that's one of our bikes. It's sorry about the delay, but it's one of our utility bike that we have introduced for riders community. So what do? You approach a charging kiosk, remove the battery, insert it, remove another one, put it back in, and off you go. Right. I mean, you can imagine how fast the video was. That's fast the swapping is gonna be as well. So we were promised a 1 minute swapping. That's what we are currently doing, and it's in place in our city. I'm sorry, I don't know why this started again. Okay. All right. So what have we done? Um, on the very kind of surface, we're not getting into the depth of it. We've created a cloud of we've created an ecosystem of our products, because thing is that most of our products are the products that we wanted to build. There wasn't any ready-made solution for that in the market, first off, and the way we wanted to build them, it was also different. So, and we really didn't want to kind of import anything from outside. This is what we wanted. They want to use the local talent and try to kind of try to get the most out of that. Right. So what have we done? We have created indigenous motorcycles, and they were just not motorcycles actually. They're like built products with lots of sensors in them, right? They provide you telematics and analytics of so much kind of importance that we have never realized for our two-wheelers. And the more we get into it, we realize the more and more kind of really good features that we can actually provide to the society. Like, for example, accident detection as well, your location where you are, if there is any kind of problem in the bike, you get the notification right away. Or if you want it to be sent to someone else as well. Imagine like a fleet owner wants to see what's going on in the city right now, and so on and so forth. Because we have built it indigenously, we have control over adding and removing all these things as well, right? Maybe in one talk I'll get into the depths of those systems as well. But right now, I think from the very front, that's one of the things that we have done. We've indigenously designed the battery in a swapping station as well. That is something that you can look on the right top corner, and that's designed in a way that it has a 10 kilowatt kind of total load, peak load, which is very much like a three-phase regular meter that you get in our city. And it can handle charging 12 batteries at the same time. So for example, for every battery, if there are 2 or 3 riders out there, they can get the swapping done very convenient. And there is a 1 minute refueling promise that we are providing as well. In order to build that, the full software stack has also to be built. So that's also done. So alhamdulillah, in the last 1.5 years, we've been able to kind of pull it off this much. Okay, so this is just to kind of show some pictures as well. We've created a facility here in Lahore, in Sundar State, where we have gotten capable to produce like 10,000 to 12,000 bikes in a year, alhamdulillah. This is the batch that was going to one of our trials in Lahore, which is actually ongoing. So this is how we have progressed so far. That's also one of the pictures of the kiosk that we have developed. This was finished in August. That was our number 1. Thankfully, we have deployed number 2 as well this last year somewhere, and it worked out the way we have thought. Right. Some of the additional features around the fleet management and the mobile app that we are also kind of provide. I really want to show you this thing and kind of try to put it out front that the impact that we can create out of this whole thing. The left one is the first business-to-business trial that we started off October 2023. It's been 3 months. They have covered almost 45,000 kilometers on our products, and we have demonstrated 25% savings for them. So that's like a very kind of off the surface 25% saving that they're getting. But the carbon emission, the impact that has been contributed to that is just not there in the picture at all. But you can imagine that obviously removing those two-wheelers in front of that on scale is going to create really enormous kind of impact. On the right side is our second kiosk built in the Gulberg area. You're very welcome to go and check it out as well. And this trial is also kicking off. Actually kicked off last week, and kind of will be analyzed in the coming weeks as well. All right. So yeah, I just wanted to give you a little kind of walk you guys through a little journey that we have in the last year and a half. And there were multiple hurdles that came across us as well. I just want to talk about a few of them so that the people from the governing bodies can hear them out as well. And maybe change them a little bit or help us out a little bit so that more players can enter into this space, really. All right. First of all, I mean, do we want to be a self-sufficient Pakistan? That's a question. We should be asking ourselves sometimes, like, and in order to realize that dream, people who are trying to do indigenous efforts, we really, really want that those should be not just us, like those should be kind of, treated in a different manner than those other companies who are mostly looking at the CKD products, right? There's a very kind of straight off one single policy across the board for whatever you're creating in Pakistan or introducing into Pakistan in the form of small parts that you assemble together, right? We really think that, there should be some kind of, policy that can classify something to be made in Pakistan. And in that manner, you actually know you're going to do two things, right? One, you're going to, first of all, use the local talent really to get into the building and the engineering of these different things that you can do. Secondly, you can also create a incentivization structure around it so that, the CKD stuff, like the one completely knocked down, but you bring it over here and assemble, those have a little higher duty so that, the two can be differentiated and people are more motivated to kind of, enter into the sector of building something here locally. So this is some message to, for example, to the office of the duties or kind of, sales tax sort of, who can actually look into that stuff. I think that's totally fair if you really look at it. Around the electricity rates, I think I can totally relate to Dr. Naveed's talk over here. The energy units prices are really going up. But I personally think that for most of the activities that are happening in the clean energy spaces, they can ask for some incentivization on the electricity prices. And most of these activities are actually happening during the daytime where there is abundance of electricity. You have showed it through the data, and we actually know it as well. Before joining this, I was also working somewhere else looking at some demand response kind of, strategies to flatten out the curve of the demand. And I personally think that I'll be very happy to have like my hundreds of kiosks going into demand response strategy in order to flatten out the curve. So if you really think that you want to kind of, create some balance, please come talk to me about that. And I think when you are having these units in hundreds and thousands in a city or a country, they are going to create an impact. Battery charging is really something that you can turn on, turn off according to the requirements. Yeah. So, but having said that, NAPRA did propose some like rupees 25 per unit for the commercial, specifically for the charging setups. But it was never implemented. I knocked on several doors. I think that never got implemented. Probably you know it as well. Okay. Around the standardization, we are lacking a bit as well. So what you build some stuff and you get a quality check from some governing bodies, right? We really thought that there are some properly written standards for example, electrical vehicle, two-wheeler, or whatever, all right, that you need to follow. But we figured out that actually those were translated from internal combustion engine specs, and they are actually not apples to apples comparisons. There's a lot of difference, the way they function. And one of the policies that you cannot have for example, a motor in a two-wheeler that is more than 2 horsepower, which is completely bizarre if you really look at it. Doesn't have any foundation. Right. And that's what we kind of, got, completely destroyed at one point with the governing body, like in order to get like this thing changed. But that's not going to get changed. We have to change. in order to do something. But we're going against you can say, the rules of efficiency, really, to kind of, get this thing out there, which is strange, right? Lastly, I think maybe on-road vehicle testing is is such a hassle. I never thought it would be like that. Really, in order to have you build something and you want to get a trial done, you have to go through EDB and PSQCA approvals, and that's for good purpose. I understand that, but they require you, for example, to have a fully kind of 10,000 to 12,000 vehicle producing factory first before you actually go to the road trial. That's like, that doesn't make any sense, right? So maybe, I don't know what way could that be? But if you really want the local players to come into the market and create some impact, and if some people want to do kind of something in this space, there should be some provisional methods as well, right? And that's also something that I wanted to highlight. But yeah, these are some of the list of items that I wanted to put in front of you. And that's all about our journey. Thank you very much.
All right. So before I ask the physical audience, we actually have a question from the online participants. So I believe it's Siddharth.
Yes, thank you, Tala, and thank you, Dr. Hassan, for the interesting presentation. Now, I have a lot of questions, right?
Okay.
It's very interesting concept that you threw today. I'll be very brief in this.
Okay.
So I understand that this concept of on-spot battery swapping might not be possible for four-wheelers or let's say cars, right? But for two-wheelers, it makes sense. It's a smaller battery size. You can do battery swapping. Understood. Now, can you elaborate more on how cost-wise or efficiency-wise is it different from a system? For example, you have superchargers placed all over, let's say, Lahore, compared to your stations being placed. That would be my first question. Like, why are other international players not jumping on this opportunity? Second is, have you thought about using these battery stations as a grid balancing commodity? For example, there's a lot of talk that, okay, we have variable renewable, it could be in any country, and we need storage systems to store excess of generation when the demand is low. And the way we model it is basically we assume that at the residential commercial sector, you buy batteries for home, right? You basically, with each rooftop solar PV panel you install a battery capacity in-house. But it's also an interesting idea that if we can move it to a distribution level, for example, we have a group of societies and they are contributing to a battery storage system like yours, and that becomes a grid balancing feature. It could also have cost implications, right? Basically, your battery system is being used also for transportation and also for grid balancing, which I think is a very interesting idea to even explore in our integrated assessment model. So, two questions I'll ask right now, but I have other questions. Maybe later on I can drop you an email. But comparison to supercharger system versus this, what has been your finding? And secondly, have you thought about these battery systems acting as a grid balancing commodity?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Siddharth. I think these are really great questions. And yes, we've been thinking about all these questions. Let me answer them one by one. For two-wheelers, there is a sense that is for the swapping that you mentioned. For four-wheelers as well, there is a similar kind of practical demonstration done by some of the companies in China specifically. If you want to go check out, NIO is one of them. So such type of concepts can be very broad, like can go across the products, two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler. Secondly, your question was about if you, rather than putting these swapping stations for two-wheelers, we put a fast charger, what would be the cost thing? First of all, I think in order to answer that, let me answer you this thing. There's a physical barrier for the current, for these small batteries. You cannot provide more because they are smaller batteries, and we are already hitting in most of our batteries the max charging current requirement, right? A normal, for example, lithium cell is designed in a way that you can discharge more current out of it, but for charging, you have a restriction in it can get heated above that. For four-wheelers, it generally doesn't make a lot of problem because you have such a big battery and you can do parallelization there. But for smaller batteries, there is a limit. So the faster that you can go, maybe 2 hours or something like that for the scale of the batteries that I'm talking about. In the market, the products that for the chargers, they are going 6-7 hours. So 2 hours could be the fast charging unit for two-wheelers. But your question is right. For four-wheelers, fast charging units could have a direct apples to apples comparison with the swapping system. With the grid, no, I have a background where I was actually one time trying to implement demand response using these lots of batteries that we have with our UPS systems in our country specifically. I've knocked so many doors for that as well. And I think that there it was not making a lot of sense because those batteries were really not really good batteries. There's a fluctuation in the load shedding as well. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. So there's no need to charge for that as well. But for units like that, where you are independently charging 12 batteries, I know the system. I can really manipulate it in order to help out the grid so that the load is more balanced. So definitely we've been thinking about it. I think one of the purposes I wanted to highlight, and I did highlight that as well with Dr. Naveed as well, that this is something we really can adopt. Absolutely. I think I've answered most of the questions that you asked.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much. And just to hash it out, it is currently one of the cutting edge research that is going on in our modeling sphere, right? If you can just search for papers, there's so many papers that are using EV as a balancing commodity, right? Even cars that are being parked in offices, how can they provide balancing? And this is a field which is being explored right now, but I'm very happy to see your presentation today and get to experience a practical demo of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I can't select one. I'm sorry.
Dr. Abu Bakr can ask.
Okay, apologies to the other person who was trying to. So my question is that can you, because you're building all the electronics yourself, can you also think about creative ways to put further value on your fleet? I mean, I don't know, the first thing that comes to my mind would be to maybe put an environmental monitoring system on that, say air pollution sensors or noise monitoring or whatever that can create further value and reduce the cost for the buyer.
That's actually a really good question. Actually, we are thinking on those lines. We have put some of the sensors, but they're not really gauging the environmental kind of different attributes. But I think because we are engaged with fleet owners and who have a lot of you can say the bikes in the city, like 500 plus, 1,000 plus in one city, and they're all the time moving around. I think this is a very good idea. I think there's a little bit of cost implication that they would think about it, but it's an idea that we did mention that we want to share with the user that for this 10 kilometers journey that you did, this is how positively you have contributed to the society. And that can definitely be doable with very small sensors, as you mentioned as well. And we've been thinking along those lines.
Did you work on break-even, like you have provided some of the statistics that there are 27 million two-wheelers in Pakistan. What about like how many two-wheelers are, for example, in Lahore, and what is your break-even? Because you are going to have a lot of charging stations. And it will have some cost implications. So,
Yes.
so what's your break even, and how much do you think you will be able to achieve from the market? Because it really depends on the end users as well.
Yes.
That how much they are attractive, like facilities
That's
for
true.
the end users. And one more thing is the pricing. that you were telling us that you will be providing like monthly subscription. So did you work on the charging at home and the monthly subscription thing
Yep.
from yourself? So what's the difference and why the consumers will select this monthly subscription?
Yep. Okay. So I think I cannot answer it with the numbers exactly, but let me tell you, like, a very simple fact is that almost 50 to 60% saving for the same kilometers journey that you get from an internal combustion engine and a two-wheeler electric vehicle, right? So you can play in that margin whatever the way you want to play it. You can accommodate the pricing of building all these swappable kiosks around the city, factor in that. And also a little higher price of the two-wheeler electric vehicle with comparison to ICE in that, and kind of, figure out what the margin would be. For a very reasonable amount, you can say, I don't have exactly numbers, but we have gathered that our break even was touching around 5 years, where we were looking at 5-6 major cities in Pakistan. So you can gauge it from there a little bit. With the home charging phenomena, I think right now we're not going to introduce that, because that's a promise. Battery is not your hassle at all, right? We're going to provide you an energy network. Round the corner of your street, you would have a swapping station or something like that, where you can swap a battery. So you really don't need to do it at home, right? Where it will take more hours as well, right? So in that manner, we are going to kind of, create a restriction for now.